Holy crap, I might be handling this. This might be happening. I'm actually starting to get a little bit of feel for it. All right. Hi. TGIF. Welcome to Friday. As we know, TGIF stands for Thank God It Is Friday. Um, Thank you for joining me on the So Far Daily podcast that I am doing. Trying to get my rhythm, trying to stretch my legs, trying to feel my way through this. So, welcome to Friday. You can join me on Facebook at Ronin Brown. That's RONIN BROWN. Instagram at 12 Brown. That's TWELVEBROWN. And you can also join me on YouTube at the Diametrically Agreeing podcast. And I think you can also find it under Brushing Teeth with Robert. Just go to Live tab. You'll see me there. Welcome to Friday. Mm. In case you're wondering, no, it's coffee. All right. Nope, I have not broken my sobriety yet. As of yet, even with as stressful as this whole podcast setup has gotten, but I think it's gone well. All right. Also, you can feel free to call in. Phone number is 512-952-9489. When I am live, feel free to call in with any question, comments, need a piece of advice, of which I'll probably give you a very bad piece of advice. So welcome to Friday. Be grateful that we all woke up. Be grateful we're all breathing air. Be grateful that we're all able to eat and have shelter over our heads. So, welcome to Friday. We all made it. As I've said before, I've been doing this every day to try to kind of get my bearings, make sure my setup is right, make sure everything's going well. And so far, so good, except for one podcast on YouTube, which was 2 days ago, in which you'll notice there is zero volume. You will hear not my voice. You will just see me gesturing wildly at the camera. I'm also trying to figure out how I want this microphone positioned. It seems to be the biggest crux or the biggest thorn in my side is trying to figure out how I want this microphone. But so far, I kind of like this setup. I was going to do a no stand thing earlier, and I may try it with another one of my microphones, but this one has like a jiggle to it. So you can hear kind of a clicking. And as we all know, I move around a lot. So with that, you would hear a lot of clanking going on inside the microphone. But for now, I like it like this. I like it like this. Oh, babe, don't shut up. Stop. Ignore that I did that. Okay. If anybody heard me do that, let's just go back 20 seconds in time, pretend like I did not. Let's see what has happened in the last few hours since my last podcast. Really, not much of anything. Though I made notes again. So lucky y'all. I actually prepared a little bit for this one, and I prepared a little bit because of what I have done in the last, what I guess, 24 hours since we've talked. So, what I've done the last 24 hours is basically, my significant other is sick. And so I have been helping her through these times, and she had been laying up in my bed. I finally took her to her apartment today, and in doing so, we watched we watched a lot of movies. There was a lot of movie watching and a lot of eating, which, as you can tell, I'm covering up my gut with the strategically placed arm and watch so that you do not see how bad it is hanging over these jeans. Isn't it surprising as you get older how easily you start feeling fat? It happens very, very, very quickly, by the way, in which you start feeling fat. Um, it literally took 48 hours of taking care of somebody who's sick for me to eat very unhealthily and to eat very unhealthy and feel like I gained weight, even though I have not weighed myself. You know what? That's a good idea. I should weigh myself and see how see if I really am. See if I really did gain weight. It's sometimes it'll fool you. Sometimes it will fool you. Sometimes you feel like you've gained weight, especially being older, and you haven't. In fact, you've lost it. It just depends on how you're carrying it through the day. So, welcome again to the Friday afternoon live podcast. As I said before, you can find me on Facebook under Ronin Brown, in which I am broadcasting live. That's RONINBROWN. You can also find me under Instagram under 12 Brown. That's TWELVEBROWN. And I am broadcasting live on YouTube under the Diametrically Agreeing podcast. So if you decide to view there, feel free. Also, if you have any questions or comments, so far out of the 6 days I've done this, I have had four original co callers or whatever you want to call them. You can call me at 512-952-9489. Yes, that is my personal number. Please do not abuse it. And just try to call in during the live show if you'd like. All right. So, haha, I heard you, Sarah. Sarah, you know what? It like literally it takes 24. It literally takes 24 hours for you to start feeling fat again. It's the worst thing in the world. So, welcome to the Friday podcast. I'm glad we all made it. Like I said, there really hasn't been much change in things. Like I said, I'm doing this every day while I am not working. I have Mondays when I start back, so I have decided I'm going to either do it Wednesday night and Saturday night, or maybe just Saturday night. All right. So if you can keep an eye open on watching me on those during those times, that would be nice. All right. And also, I do want to say this. Thank you all. Anybody who's watching, anybody who has joined in, anybody who's taken the time out of their time to even watch the recorded podcast, thank you so much for paying attention to my insane rants and rambling on various topics from fried chicken to loving yourself to what was yesterday's? Yesterday was, conspiracy theories, which was a lot of fun. I had a really, really good time with that one. I have to admit, you kind of caught me on a subject that I really love paying attention to. Um, so if anybody can hear me on YouTube, please let me know if this microphone is too loud, if it's popping. I do have a tendency to pop my peas. They hate that, by the way, in the DJ community or the like the radio community, the popping of the peas. It's one of the first things they kind of try to teach you to not do whenever you're on mic, but I can't help it. It's just the way my voice settles. So that and I'm kind of nasally sometimes also. That's a whole other thing is when I'm very nasally. So welcome to Friday. Hope you're enjoying your coffee or your after work drink or your during work drink. Who the hell knows? Who knows? It's not for me to judge. It's your life to live. That's the way I look at it. Mm. So, what's going on, Brad? How are you doing? I see you out there. So, welcome to the Friday podcast. And like I say, I am coming to you live from Dallas, Texas, in the neighborhood of North Oak Cliff, which is near the Bishop Arts District, of which it is 100 degrees outside. Luckily, it's 100 degrees. Normally, in the last few days at this point, it's already been well above the 100 mark. And it's kind of nice that we've settled in to a nice 100 degrees. And I believe tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday are actually even supposed to be less. I think we're supposed to go into like 95, 92 degrees, which is weird. For those of y'all outside of Texas, all right, hold on one second. I tend to watch things on the TV and I want to make sure they're flowing because they keep my mind going. Um, it's funny that miss you too, Brad. Miss you. Mwah. Miss you big time, brother. It's funny because those of y'all who watch this outside of Texas don't understand, but whenever we are below 100 degrees in the summer, that is a godsend. Okay, got to go back to work. See you later, Brad. Have fun at work, all right? Watch us later. Um, those of y'all that don't understand, when it's under 100 degrees for us here in Texas during the summer, it's a godsend that we enjoy. And I know that's kind of out of the realm of a lot of places. I think in the South, period, that's just the way it is. That's just seems to be the way that it goes. I'm going to bring these master controls down and see if we bring this down a little bit on this. Okay, there we go. And I'll bring my gain down just a little bit. There we go. Okay, that should be a little bit better on the board on the YouTube. So, yeah, for us, that's a godsend. Anytime it's under 100 degrees in the summer in the South, that's good for us. I know it seems like we are lizard people. I truly understand that, all right? But it's just the weather we're used to, just like some people up north are used to snow and freezing rain and things like that. Again, it's completely understandable, but for us, this is our good weather whenever it's under 100 degrees. Another thing is the summer, I think I've only been swimming once, which is odd. And luckily, I got to swim down in the Guadalupe River, so that was really really nice, and that's always refreshing. If you ever make it to the Hill Country, New Braunfels, San Marcos, anywhere Blanco down, heading to the, I guess that would be to the east, or the southeast. It's gorgeous. It absolutely beautiful, and it's a good respite to get that river water. A lot of people have real misconceptions about river water, but actually, river water is fantastic. It really is, and as long as you don't have any open wounds, you'll be fine. So that's kind of the way I look at that, and I think that was the only time I went swimming this year so far. Yeah, I really should get out to a pool or something. I really should go swimming. People should see these legs. You have gorgeous legs. I don't think enough men prop up the short shorts, the John McEnroe shorts. I think that's something that we should do, and I've been trying to bring them back into style and into circulation for years. I think I've worn the short shorts now for almost 20 years, and they seem to start kind of be catching on. I think that men, we don't give our legs enough. We don't give them enough credit. Unless you're a black dude. Black dudes tend to have really skinny legs. I'm just saying. I've seen them. It's so funny because you can see a black dude with this unbelievable upper body, and then he takes his pants off and he's wearing shorts and he has like these skinniest fucking legs of all. I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's a genetic thing or a race thing. Maybe it's just a stereotype that I have in my head, but it is what it is. All right. So thank you all very much for joining me. Mm. Oh, I need this coffee. And before we get into it, I'll go and repeat one more time. Instagram, you can find me under 12 Brown. That's TWELVEBROWN. On Facebook, you can find me under Ronin Brown. That's RONINBROWN. And then you can find me on Instagram, the Diametrically Agreeing Podcast or Brushing Teeth with Robert. And lastly, if you'd like to call in, 512-952-9489. I see that, Gretchen. Yes, it is racist, and I'm all right with that. All right, so let's talk about what my subject is today. Okay. And I've always found this interesting. This is something I've always found interesting. Yes, I have to remove my glasses because they're not for reading, they're for seeing things far away. I've always found this interesting. And from watching movies over the last 2 days, I kind of got back into this. And I don't know if anybody else is like me, but especially because of don't leave, especially because of Google and because of the internet and because of how it has changed the way we use media and we're able to look up things. Now, when I was younger, and y'all are going to think this is hilarious, especially you younger people out there, in order to find something that we had a question about, you either had to have a set of encyclopedias, you had to have a friend that had a set of encyclopedias. Travis, I am not going to whip it out this early in the podcast. I've, I I have to bury the lead. The lead has to be at the very end. All right. Um, you either had to have encyclopedias, you had to have a friend that had encyclopedias, or you did this thing, which is very odd for those of y'all that are young out there and watching this. You you're going to think this is the oddest thing, but we used to do this thing where you could uh, the library. The library in your city had a phone number, and the phone number was 24 hours, and you could call it at 24 hours a day, and a person would answer, and then you could ask them the question, and they would do this. They would be like, "Okay, I'll call you back in about 20 minutes. I'm going to go find the answer." No bullshit. A librarian would go and look up the answer for you and call you back and tell you it. Grandpa Bobby over here. So those used to be kind of our three modes of looking things up before the internet kind of took hold. You either again had encyclopedias, had a friend that had encyclopedias, or you called that 24-hour library number. Or if you didn't have that, you just waited until the next day. You went to the library, you looked it up, and you just said, screw it. I remember one time I was at a dinner party and we were trying to remember whether a celebrity was dead or not. There were a few people there were probably about 10 people at this party, and somebody whipped out their phone to Google it, And I remember the host going, "Why don't we not find out? Why don't we just let it out there? Why don't we just leave it out there in the ether and not know the answer?" Which I loved that. I absolutely love that idea. I love that idea of like not knowing. Just like, why do we have to know everything so quickly? We don't have to. We don't have to know everything so quickly. So why not just let it out? Just leave the question out there. You can look it up later if you want, and just enjoy the time in which it's a mystery out there. And I loved that. I absolutely love that idea. Now, this is what I got into in the last 48 hours. And I'm going to tell you where it started. I am a humongous fan of when you're watching a little bit of an older movie or even a lot of an older movie, finding out whether a background location still exists. I fucking love that. I think it's so much fun to see if a business is still around that was in a movie that was filmed a while back or way back. And so I have some locations here that I've looked up and thought about that I really thought are interesting in the last 48 hours. And some of them aren't interesting. They're just a background business that I wondered if it still existed. And it all started this morning when I was watching The Net with Sandra Bullock. All right. Now, anybody who knows me knows I can't pass up a good Sandra Bullock movie. I really can't. She's America's sweetheart. I love Sandra Bullock. I think she's fantastic still to this day. I think Jesse James really did a screwed up thing when he fucked her over because I don't know, you're kind of losing. So way back in the day, her mother and father were clients of mine, and they were the sweetest, nicest people. And a lot of times, that's a really good gauge of whether somebody's a good person or not. If their parents seem genuine and seem like good people. And I remember her mom and dad were sweethearts. I can't remember if I met her mom or dad or just her dad, but I remember he's a super great guy, super nice. And it was right around the time also that I think that Dennis Quaid was getting involved with that Buffington girl that he ended up getting married to. Now, who did he divorce to be with her? It was somebody pretty popular that he had divorced to be with her, and I can't remember who it was. Was it Meg Ryan? It was Meg Ryan. I think it was Meg Ryan. Yeah, I'm almost positive it was Meg Ryan. Um, and so it was around that time. And Sandra Bullock, of course, real big in Austin. That's where I was living at the time. And so that's kind of how that came to be. All right. So I was watching The Net. And by the way, if you haven't seen The Net, didn't age fantastically, just so you know. We only believe in one Quaid in my house, and that's Randy Quaid. By the way, I want to say this about Randy Quaid. Randy Quaid in real life is really just the same character he probably played in Independence Day, the drunk pilot dude. Can we just be honest? He's probably just the same exact. There probably was no stretch. It's almost like William Shatner plays William Shatner, or Christopher Walken really just always plays Christopher Walken. It's kind of like that thing. I'm pretty sure Randy Quaid is just always like in the movie Independence Day. He wasn't really playing a character. He was really just being himself. Um, so I was watching The Net, and there's a part where there's almost like a chase scene, and she takes a right, and it even shows you the street sign. It shows you that she's turning onto Santa Monica Boulevard, and there's a place called Cox Paint, Cox Travis, Cox Paint, and it's on Santa Monica Boulevard. So I decided to Google it. I decided to see if it still existed. Now, I should have looked up when these movies came out because that would have given us a reference point. But I'm going to say it's fair to say that, let's say, The Net probably came out in 2001, 2002, maybe. If anybody out there can Google that real quick for me, that'd be awesome. And just let me know what year it came out. But the interesting thing about The Net is this: it was one of my first forays into seeing a movie where the hitman actually falls for the person they're trying to kill. So if you remember it, what it is Sandra Bullock gets past a disc that's full of basically criminal information on a worldwide like business or industrial espionage kind of thing. And during the entire movie, she's being hunted down and to be killed for for this information and for the disc in particular, right? And during it, kind of towards the beginning, one of the hitmen that get hired for her, he falls in love with her. Or I don't know if love would be, he falls in obsession with her, I think is probably the best way. So he always has a hard time killing her, which is kind of neat in that movie. The Mexican is fairly similar also with James Gandolfini and Brad Pitt and Julia Roberts, except that James Gandolfini is gay in it and he doesn't become obsessed with Julia Roberts. He just ends up liking her. So it becomes a very hard situation for him. Um, so I really liked that about the net, but I got on the old Google. I took a look, and Cox Paint on Santa Monica Boulevard in California not only still exists, has the exact same signage. Building looks exactly the same, except the inside's a little modernized, and they sell Sherwin Williams, Benjamin Moore. It still is a paint company, which I thought was super interesting. So then that took me down the rabbit hole. That took me down the rabbit hole of all sorts of different movies that I do enjoy, in which there are background businesses that I always have wondered where they exist or where this was filmed at and things like that. Some of these I already knew, by the way. Spoiler alert. All right. Now, if you know me, and if you know if you know me or if you've heard any of my podcasts, you know how much of a proselytizer I am for the movie Running Scared. I believe Running Scared is the best buddy cop film to ever exist. Hold on, we'll take a pause here real quick and say you can find me on Instagram under 12 Brown. That's TWELVEBROWN. You can find me on Facebook under Ronan Brown, RONINBROWN. You can find me on YouTube under the Diametrically Agreeing Podcast, or you can feel free to call in on Instagram Live or my phone number 512-952-9489. I ate. Okay, Travis just came in with a little piece of trivia. I ate at the restaurant Sharon Tate last ate in. That does count. That does count. Absolutely, it counts without a doubt. I've always loved it. So because I was in Austin for so long, and because movies were there for so long. In fact, there are a couple movies that I was in the background of. Slacker by Richard Linkletter. You can see me and my buddy Grant Huang. We're in the background of that one. RoboCop, which was filmed partly in Houston and I believe here in Dallas also. Though it takes place in Detroit, that's actually on here. Um, they, I was in the background of that movie, so I'd known. I've always liked that whole idea, and so I've always liked that whole like eating in a place or seeing a place or going to see a place that was in a movie or in a TV show or something like that. Um, so let's get back to it real quick. So I love Running Scared. Running Scared has Gregory Hines and Billy Crystal in it. I believe it is the best buddy cop movie to ever be filmed. If you have not seen it, I highly recommend it. It is filled with stars. I mean, it's filled with people. I also was in the True Lies elevator. Was the glass one? Isn't it? It's glass, right? Isn't the True where he's on? Oh, he's on the horse. It is a glass elevator. Okay, all right. Travis, where is that elevator located? It would have to be in California, right? It's in LA probably or Burbank or something like that. Um, so there is a scene in Running Scared. Okay. And in the background, there's a very interesting bar. It's in downtown LA. Very good. Okay. In Running Scared is filmed in Chicago. All right. And in the background, I'm always interested in this bar. And in the background, it says it's a big red bar. It's not huge. It's almost looks like there should have been buildings around it, but they all got demolished eventually. And the bar is called the 666 Lounge. Now, San Antonio, I believe, also has a 666 bar, and it's a gay bar. But this place, you can see in the background of a scene in which they are basically questioning a suspect. And I found out a few things about this bar. First of all, this bar was right next door to a mission, and it was also a block from the county lockup. So supposedly all the reviews you read on this bar, the place was supposedly filled with bums and hookers and people who just gotten out of jail. In fact, supposedly it was so bad that people who would park on the street near the bar they would have to empty their glove compartment, leave it open, empty their center console, leave it open as proof that there is nothing in the vehicle to steal. I stole a robe from the hotel. That's Travis talking about true lies. And so that's how what a bad area of town this was. And it's also probably a testament to how bad Chicago was back in the day. Now, as we know, there are bad sections of Chicago still. There's bad sections of every city, but there are bad sections of Chicago this day. But I've been to Chicago and honestly the downtown area and probably and Printers Row, which I've been to, it's actually a pretty nice area. It's not isn't doesn't seem unsafe to me. I walked around there. I had no problem with it. In fact, if I'm correct, I think there's a Lou Malnati's Pizza that is not far from there. Oh, you have a film location to tell me about. Okay. If you are you at work or would you like to call in or do you want to Instagram live or do you just want to text it? Either way is more than fine. I'm willing to hear it in any way you want to give it to me, Travis. All right. Um, so that's another location I've always been interested in, mainly because of the title of it, which is 666 Lounge. I've always thought that was really, really interesting. Now, another so I learned this today, which I always thought I knew a lot of trivia about this movie, but I actually called somebody who lives in the city that this movie takes place in, or a portion of this movie takes place in. The movie is Beverly Hills Cop, and I'm talking about the original one with dun, 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 dun. Benny and I reenacted the Hollywood. Oh, I'm getting a call. Okay, let's see. Dun-dun. Hello, Travis. You are on the podcast with me.
Oh hell yeah! So my filming location.
Okay, I'm
Um,
excited.
am, am I allowed to be explicit?
You're allowed to be as crass as possible. This is a not for children podcast.
Okay. Do you remember Uncut Gems?
Oh, of course, with Adam Sandler. It's a movie I absolutely love. That
Yeah.
that and I think we've talked about that. That and Punch Drunk Love are two of our favorite like Adam Sandler movies.
Yeah. I love Uncut Gems. It's a top five film for me.
Right.
Um, do you remember the beginning?
Hmm. Not really. I don't really. I've only seen the movie once, so I don't really remember the beginning.
So the beginning is the infomercial of them finding the gem.
Oh
Uh,
yes. Okay,
and
yes,
it goes down into the cave, and
yes,
then there's like this whole like beautiful, kind of opening credits scene where you're going to find the gem, right? And you go down in there, and then it pulls out, and turns out it's a colonoscopy.
yes.
Yeah, so I was inside of Adam Sandler's asshole.
Oh Jesus
Um,
fucking Christ!
one of the filming locations for Uncut Gems.
Why did I answer this phone call?
And let me tell you, beautiful.
Did you eat dinner there? Is that a location you ate dinner in?
I stayed for 3 nights.
Oh, it was that
Yeah.
beautiful, huh?
Yeah.
I fucking hate
Yeah.
you so much. I hate you so fucking much right now. Why? I fucking knew it. I knew it. I warned myself before I answered this phone call that this was the direction this was gonna go. I fucking knew it. I knew it.
Well,
Okay.
consider me doing this my birthday present.
Oh, it is your. Oh, it is. By the way, happy birthday to you. By the way,
Thank you.
young Travis is 31 years old today.
See, god damn. That mind, sharp as a tack.
Look at that.
right
It's like a
there.
steel trap. It's a steel trap, I tell you.
Yeah. I told him 24 hours ago.
And
when
he
I
see
was
you saw how
turning.
long it took me to remember it. I was like, what did he say again? Oh. Okay, well, let's all thank Travis for calling in with that bit of location trivia. Travis, thank you very much. Happy birthday. Are we working today on our birthday?
I've been off since like two. Yeah.
Mm,
So
as you should be. All right. Well, listen. Have a happy birthday. I love you, and celebrate wisely and make good choices, my friend.
I'll try.
All right. I love you, big man.
All right. Love you,
Bye.
bud.
So that was Travis with a bit of trivia from the from Uncut Gems. So, of course, those of y'all on Instagram missed that. Travis called in. He let us know that he was at the filming location. Oh, hi, Angie. He was at a filming location for Uncut Gems, and that filming location was Adam Sandler's butthole. So he was inside of his. He was inside of his. That would be his smaller intestines, I imagine. I think that is where he was. So thank you very much for that bit of movie location knowledge, Travis. Okay, so let's get back to this. Um, Now, Beverly Hills Cop is an interesting one because Beverly Hills Cop takes place supposedly in two locations. It takes place in the city of Detroit, which is where Axel Foley is a policeman. It also takes place fairly quickly in LA, in Beverly Hills specifically. Back in the 80s, of course, everything about this movie was everything we thought Beverly Hills was. All right. Come to find out, it's pretty fucking accurate. Even to this day, it's pretty accurate. Now, there were pieces of trivia. I called my brother. Now, my brother, Josh, he lives in what's known as Downriver. So he lives south of Detroit. It's a huge set of suburbs. You got Taylor, Brownstown. You got all sorts of areas there in the Detroit section, especially south of Detroit. And like I said, it is called the Downriver section. Um, I'll take a pause real quick. Say this: if you want to find me on Instagram, you can find me under 12 Brown. It's TWELVEBROWN. You can also find me on Facebook under Ronin Brown. That's RONINBROWN. You find me on YouTube, Angie. You could tell them the Diametrically Agreeing Podcast or even Brushing Teeth with Robert. I'll be under the live tab and you'll see when I broadcast live. All right. So, Beverly Hills Cop never takes place in Detroit. It's a huge lie. It's a big lie. There's literally one scene in the entire movie filmed in Detroit. The entire movie, the apartment scene, the bar scene, everything that supposedly takes place in Detroit, all takes place in LA. The movie is a humongous lie. It is lied to us. Okay. Um, Now, when I was younger, I remember one of the scenes I really liked, and I don't know why I liked it, but probably because I was like fucking drunk. Was the scene where him and Mikey at the very beginning are in the bar and they're playing pool and they're just talking, bullshitting you. And it was a really great scene because it really reminds you of the way you and your buddies like joke around while you're drinking in a bar. It was very natural. Well, I always thought it was in a place called the Old Miami that is in Detroit. I know, very oxymoronic. Old Miami, Detroit. Okay. But it is not. It is actually filmed in a place called Harvell's that is in, again, Santa Monica. It's a lie. Not even in Detroit at all. Not even in Detroit at all in any way, shape, or form. So, oh, by the way, Sarah, if you're still watching, Sarah is also from the Michigan area, just as I am. Um, so it is supposed to be in Detroit, takes place in Santa Monica. But I will tell you this: one of my favorite pieces of trivia about Beverly Hills Cop is this. There is I guess, a precinct, whatever you call lieutenant or whatever, who basically, I think he's in the first two, I believe, but he basically reams out Axel Foley. Like he's always yelling, he's always mad, he's always angry. Well, that was the actual real chief of police from Detroit. He was a gentleman named of Gil Hill. He was the chief of police for Detroit. And if you know the story of White Boy Rick, he is the one who was responsible for keeping White Boy Rick in jail for so long. As a matter of fact, Gil Hill actually was very integral to Detroit politics. Not only was he a police officer at one time, not only was he a lieutenant, a sergeant, he was also a chief of police. Supposedly, He knew dirty laundry on every politician in Detroit at the time. In fact, supposedly there's an interview that my brother told me that he gave where he had been offered many times to off or help off many Detroit politicians, of which he did not participate. So I've always thought that was real interesting, and I've kind of always known he was a chief of police, but I didn't know that deep into this. So he's actually playing, like you said, oh, he's playing the sergeant, and it's funny that like he really was the chief of police for Detroit, and he acted like that also. Supposedly that is was his real personality that he used there on camera. So that brings me to this one, which I've always thought is pretty interesting. And I was actually in the back. I'm in a background scene of this movie because part of it was filmed in Houston. I mentioned earlier, which is the movie RoboCop. Now, RoboCop has a real quick cutscene, or I think a couple, where it shows the police station. Now, that is not the police station in Detroit because, as we know, RoboCop again. RoboCop takes place in Detroit. Oh wow, that's weird. I didn't even seg that. I didn't even mean to seg that. That's just the way it segued. So RoboCop takes place in Detroit, but actually RoboCop is filmed in Houston, and the police station they show is actually Dallas City Hall. And if you've ever been to Dallas City Hall, you will know it is among the ugliest city halls you will ever see in your life. It looks extremely uninviting. It's always gross, always litter, always homeless people around it. And I'm not saying anything bad about homeless people, but I am saying they do create a certain element to a situation. And by the way, why, no matter what city you go to, if you go to the downtown public library, that's where homeless people love to be. Are they reading that much? Are the homeless people in cities like checking out that many books? Doesn't seem that way to me. It seems like they just don't want you to go to the library. They just want you to be scared of going and learning. I've always noticed that. Even like the Houston Public Library, the one downtown, which I've always loved that building. There were always, even when I was younger, there were always just littered with homeless people around the area. And I think that was also back when like Houston downtown was a lot less hospitable than it is today. Um, but I've always loved this piece of trivia about Dallas City Hall. Back in the 50s and 60s, they actually used to flood that plaza with water and put sand around it so it looked like a beach, and you could go swimming there. They even had lifeguards and everything, and you could actually go swimming on Dallas City Hall property, and they had it set up like it was a beach, which I've always thought is a really neat. I've seen some pictures of it, and it actually looks pretty cool. You probably couldn't do it today. People are a lot less classy. Somebody poop in that water, in other words. That's what I'm trying to say. Somebody would definitely poop or pull their wing out and pee in that water, and then it would ruin it for everybody, and everybody would have to go home. So I always thought that was interesting that the RoboCop police station is actually Dallas City Hall, and it looks like it could be, by the way, a police station in Detroit in post-apocalyptic Detroit. Just so you know. Now, we're gonna go with another piece of Detroit. Wow, I've got a lot of Detroit on here. I just realized. We're gonna go with another piece of Detroit trivia, which a location, filming location trivia, which is the movie 8 Mile. And as we know, 8 Mile, of course, is the famous story of the rapper Eminem. And I've liked that movie. I like the movie a lot. And honest truth is, if you've never been to Detroit, you will find that that movie, first of all, it is filmed in Detroit, so locations are real. If you ever walk around Detroit in the fall or kind of late winter to spring, it looks just like that. Like it's gray, it's dirty, it's overcast, it's gross. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Detroit, and I am again a huge proselytizer of Detroit. I love Detroit. I'm using that word a lot, proselytizer. I'm probably not even using it right. I'm going to be honest with you. But I love Detroit. I love the food. I love the people. Detroit is really cleaned up, especially in the last like 15 years. It's actually a lot safer to walk around than it used to be, especially the downtown area. The downtown area is a lot nicer. But 8 Mile really encapsulates what Detroit looks like. especially around those times in which it's real rainy and it's kind of gross and it's kind of a place you don't really want to walk around a lot in. It's not a place that's going to elicit a lot of joy during certain seasons and during certain months. I know that there's a lot of like, was it fluorescent light therapy that happens for people who live in that area because of you get really depressed because you don't see sun for so long, you know? Oh wow, that sounded sun for so long. Um, so one of my favorite pieces or locations is actually where the rap battle takes place. Now, the rap battle takes place in what I think is one of the best music venues in the world, and it's a place called St. Andrew's Hall. It's an old cathedral, and it's basically been gutted out and it's made into a music venue. I've only been there once. I've only seen one show there, but it was a unbelievable show. I saw the Gay Blades and the Electric Six there, and it just happened to be the Electric Six's last show on their tour that year. I've always loved the Electric Six. If you have never looked into them, you should. They're a great band. They do a song called High Voltage. That's fantastic. They do a song called At the Gay Bar. That's fantastic. I highly recommend them. They're a great band. I don't even know if they're still around, but I do remember this about the show. Um, what they played an In Excess song. Da, 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 da. I'm gonna remember the name of it, but I do remember the whole entire. It's that one that goes, "Don't ask me," it's the one that goes, I'll make wine from your tears." That song, okay, everybody knows that song, right? I told you the we could fly. Okay, it's that song, and that entire place went insane and sang lyric for lyric, every single one. They sang every single lyric of every single part of that song, and I mean, they exploded. They exploded. It was so awesome. Um, so I highly, highly, highly recommend that you check out the Electric Six, but specifically St. Andrews Hall in Detroit. Now that rap battle is taking place in the basement of St. Andrews Hall, so it's not actually in the main venue. It's actually down in the basement, and it's a great place. It's a great place, and it was actually one of the first places where I tried to walk to the bank machine to go get cash, and nobody would let me go alone because it was back in the day when it was so absolutely gross. It was so absolutely like you had to go to an ATM in like groups of 5 and 6 in order to be safe there. So, and like I said, it's changed now. In fact, I was just down. This was just a couple years ago. I was actually down in that area, and I had to go back to the same bank machine, and I went by myself, and nobody even batted an eye. They were like, "Yeah, yeah, all right, sounds good. We'll be here. We'll see you when you get here." So that shows you how much Detroit has changed in that time. All right, here's my last venue. My last venue. We're going to take it back home. We're going to take it to Austin, and of course, I've mentioned this before, but I'm going to mention a different venue. Okay, and this is the movie Dazed and Confused. All right. Movie Dazed and Confused. One of my favorite scenes is the bar scene. It is also the scene where they play pool, and it's also not too long before the scene where Ben Affleck gets the paint thrown on him. Now, all of this takes place on the same block, by the way. So they did not change shooting locations too far. Now, it's right off of Burnett and Koenig, all right, or Burnett and 2222. Now, back in the day, like back when I moved there in the early 90s, that was considered pretty far up north. Okay. Almost nobody ever went past Koenig. Definitely not past 183. But in that area off of Burnett from Koenig all the way up to 183, there is just a host of local businesses. Now, I've already mentioned one on the podcast about fried chicken, which is Top Notch. Now, Top Notch is the scene where they are in the drive through, okay, where they're in like the drive through area. Now, this one with the bar, this it's changed names because I think people have bought it a couple times. Now it's called Violet Crown Plaza or something like that. But this was filmed back when it was called the Poodle Dog Lounge. Now, right next to the Pool Dog Lounge, in the same parking lot as this bar, is an old auto shop that's been there forever. Hi, Bridge. How are you? Mwah. And so that whole area has been there forever. And it used to be an old biker bar, but after kind of Austin kind of changed the demographic and stuff, the bikers kind of moved a little farther out north, and it was bought. I believe it was called the Aristocrat at one point. Because I remember I used to drink there for a little while. I used to drink there so heavily that my son could call up there and he could call the regular telephone if I wasn't answering my cell phone and they knew I was there. Um, and it was kind of a really cool old school place. All right. Now, the auto shop is literally right next door, which is where Ben Affleck gets the paint dumped on him. And actually, those guys were super awesome. They helped me out with my car a couple times because at the time, it's not like I drive great cars now, but at the time, I drove a super junky vehicle and I would just, that's just what I drove. And so they helped me out a ton of times. Um, and so, Pool Dog Lounge. And in fact, if you go online, to, I believe, texasfilm.org. They have all the different venues mapped out on Days and Confused where you can go and visit all of them if you want. Now, my opinion, the one that you really should go, there are two that really make sense to go to, and that would be Sandy's, which you can get frozen custard there, and then Top Notch, and that's where you can get the fried chicken. Besides that, you'll just be seeing like libraries or schools or outside of a bar or something like that. So that's about it. So that was my subject. That was all I had written down. There it is. If you have any movie locations or any interesting movie run-ins, feel free. List them in the comments. You can find me on Instagram under 12 Brown. That's TWELVEBROWN. You can find me on Facebook under Ronan Brown. That's RONINBROWN. And you can find me on YouTube under the Diametrically Agreeing podcast. So feel free to comment or subscribe or hit the bell so you get the alerts whenever I'm on. Like I said, I'm going to do this for 2 more days. I'm going to do it Saturday and Sunday, and then I'm probably going to move to once a week because then I have to go to work, or maybe twice a week at the most. Um, and so thank y'all for tuning in. There's my 47 minutes. So that kind of turned out perfectly. I'm glad. I gotta start making notes. Notes really help this whole situation. So thank y'all very much for tuning in. Thank you very much for joining me on the podcast. And be grateful. Be grateful that you had another day to breathe. Be grateful that you had another day to eat and drink. You had a roof over your head. Go out there, give the world a big hug, give it a smack on the ass, and tell it how much you love it. I love you all. Thank you for listening to me ramble. Thank you for tuning in for the days you've tuned in. Some of y'all been here every day, so thank y'all very much for that. That's always fucking sweet. And I love y'all very much. Also, let's go ahead and give Travis a big hand for visiting Adam Sandler's anus, in which he stayed for 3 days, which was the same place they filmed the very beginning shots of Uncut Gems. So good job, Travis. I'm glad that you, yeah, I'm word indeed, Sean. Word indeed. All right. I love you all. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Have a good Friday evening. Thank you for tuning in. And until tomorrow. Da-na-da-da-na, ba-da-na-da-na. All right. Very good. Now we do this.